And we are back on the Shattered Skies server in survival mode. So there's been quite a few changes here lately, and I spent a fair amount of time playing over the weekend and found that it was difficult for me to record a playthrough, a let's play, in the sense that survival mode's still a little bit lacking in terms of kind of the constant thrills that you can get from something like playing a survival mode Minecraft. There's more things, constant threats available in something like Minecraft, and we're not in a situation to be in heavy PvP mode or anything just yet, but we are working towards that. So the result of all of this is that I spent a lot of time doing various tasks that I didn't really want to record, like mining, but then would also forget to start recording again when I was doing builds. Sometimes because I would do a little chunk of a build and then go back out and do mining and do a little chunk of a build and maybe, run here or there. Excuse me, doing errands and things like that. So the end result is that I don't think that at least I personally don't really feel like spending a lot of time on a planet. I like to build ships, I like to make some bigger things, but that requires a lot of resources, so I don't want to film and record all the mining and try to talk over that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 to 2 videos a week, and I'm going to do what I call my weekly whips, or my weekly work in progress reports. So that way I can give some updates about things that are going on, shoot 1 or 2 videos throughout the week without feeling the need to constantly record everything else. I don't quite have everything set up to the point where I can do a speed build from start to finish, and I'm not really that fast to be able to speed build something out in a 6-hour chunk of time anyway. I spend a few days at least on each of my ships. We also have a new member of the faction, 2 new members. And we may review a couple of his ships at some point, but his name is Zaktar. He's actually ran across him at one of the other servers I played at, and he builds these 2 ships here are his. He builds some really cool, really colorful ships. This black and green one is a salvager, and this white one here is his kind of multi-purpose cruiser, so that he can get in and start fighting some pirates. So those are his. If at some point we can, maybe, I don't know if he gets on TeamSpeak, so at some point we may chat with him. But I will go ahead and take this straight into the weekly whips. I have 2 whips right now. The first one is my newest ship. We'll go ahead and start there since it's definitely more in progress. And this is the Frawl Mark III. It's based off of the designs used by the Frawl in D20 Future Tech and some other earlier series before Future Tech came out. Also kind of like a new take on the gray alien design. I just really like their more UFO saucer-shaped ships, but not 100% saucer-shaped. They actually have some detailing. All of these holes cut out of the edges where the power capacitors line up. Those line up to the centers of those holes, and that's where I'm going to be putting some pretty large turrets. So you can see the core room is in this octagon, or right here, and that is almost all the way in the back of the ship. But I did that because on this ship there's a fairly large gap in the front here that somebody could shoot through, and I'm not even sure. I think this is going to be a turret, but it might just be a turret on the bottom side. I haven't decided that yet or not. But I didn't want to put my core room kind of closer up to the center, or even at like 2/3 mark, because of this large gap right here. Normally you want to leave at least a third to 2/3 of your ship hull to shoot through. So really I had to put it between the 2/3 mark of just this last, about 2/3 of the ship. So 2/3 of 2/3, I've got a lot of the power already done up on it. It's just over 1,000,000 power regen. I want to kick that up a little bit higher, and you can see some of the wedging that I've started here as well. I also want to do some interesting things with with rails on this ship. I would like to do some spinning bits and some decorative bits. These two large rectangles are going to be the main cannons of the ship. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to put in there yet. Some kind of cannon combo. I don't know if I'm going to do sniper cannons or rapid fire cannons. And yeah, so it's very work in progressy. It's very rough right now. I think I've got a couple of hours in on this one, mostly because I've been freehanding the hull all the way around. This is not a Smedit load or anything like that. It's just kind of figure it out as I go. I do want to put some interior in here, because my other ship I did not do really any interior on at all, and I still haven't even finished the interior on the Eclipse, which is now the... no, it is the Eclipse still. Okay, yeah. Anyway, whoops. I'm not going to show too much of that off just yet. But I'm going to do some rail things in these pods. I'm going to move maybe like some power reactor cores. They're empty throughout the inside of them, but I think I want to add some spinning bits or something in there. And some, you know, minor interiors. So that's this for right now. I got a little hidden room here for doing some systems in, just so that I can keep my system computers, you know, stashed away, because I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the core room yet either, so I don't necessarily want to put all my computers there. And I'm thinking about putting a command deck on the top side up here, and then maybe have the turret, just the largest turret, maybe just be on the bottom, instead of doing a large cannon through it, because I'm not 100% sure how the cannon AI is going to work traversing if I made just like a base here and a large cannon that went out the front. I'm not sure how well it would work if it was aiming at something up here and then it needed to aim at something, you know, down over here, if it would actually center itself and move over, or if it would try to move down and cause a collision and go, oh, I just can't move there, and just kind of stick. Because I have noticed a little bit of that with some of the smaller turrets that I've made so far. And speaking of smaller turrets, that brings us now to the Catalyst. That's this big guy here. And big, I mean, he's not that big. I think it's like 130 long. The Catalyst is my support frigate. So these two cannons up front are actually there's two ships, or two entities for each cannon, because the very inside of the frigate has the rotator block with an activation module that keeps it rotating, but then a mass support system followed by a turret dock module to dock the cannons to. So they are only forward-facing, forward-firing cannons. They are pretty powerful at the moment. You can see some of them are slightly different sizes than others. They have a large portion of their own power, excuse me, and they draw some from the ship itself. I've overdone it on the mass enhancers for the moment, just because I'm still kind of learning how all of that works, and I wanted to make sure that I could get it done right. Currently, I have 8 of the 11 turrets that are set to be on this guy right now, and they could use to be reset probably, but they are on 2-axis rotational turrets, so they can hit, you know, quite a few targets. There is going to be one more turret on the bottom side of each side here, and a turret in the back, which I've kind of raised a section over here so that I can finish doing the hull over it. And then detailing. Detailing is the last thing, and it really needs to be done on this thing. It needs a lot of detail work. I believe it has just over 2 million shields, quite a bit of power, you know, standard a little bit over 1 million regen. I'm not sure what its total charge is right now. I'll do a proper ship review when it's done, because this is weekly whips. So, but these turret cannons in the front are, you know, they're kind of my pride and joy right now. The other nice thing about this ship is hopefully when I finish it, and I may reconfigure it in a couple of different ways, but since these cannons are separate turrets, I was thinking I could make this kind of modular and be able to remove the entire Gatling gun section and replace it with a sniper cannon, or maybe a twin rail cannon, or a missile system, or if there's even enough room in here, I might be able to do a couple of small drone bay pods. Excuse me. The other problem is, though, that since this is all AI controlled, It does not do a good job against fleets of fighters. Fleets of fighters definitely take this thing put some holes in it. I think I got down to about 75% shields before I decided to jump away on my last encounter. And but it does do an amazing job of tearing through shields on larger ships and stations. So as long as I have the support of another, more versatile ship, or a few fighters that can keep, some of the fire off of me and eliminate smaller targets, then I can take out the shielding on more heavily guarded targets. So that's kind of the purpose of this ship at the moment, is more of a fleet support vessel, an anti-armor vessel. Right now it's kind of anti-shield. The cannons have 20% ion on them right now, although I was thinking of switching that over to piercing, partially for roleplay because who doesn't love Gatling guns with armor-piercing rounds, and partially because even though piercing was nerfed, it's still pretty effective, especially in the large spread of fire that I can lay down on, my opponent's ships. So I think that the room is clear there. Yeah. So that is the catalyst in its current state. It's still very rough. This whole top back section needs some detail, and I need some other pieces to kind of break it up visually. But right now I'm working more heavily on the Thrall because I need a more multi-purpose ship. I need something that's going to be able to handle fighters, hence the large areas for turrets, and be able to take out stations, because I've not inherited, but made quite a bit of money selling to the shop that you've seen in earlier videos, and I would like to spend some of it by buying out the rest of the pirate stations in the area and, securing my sector a little bit more cleanly. And the Catalyst does a really good job of knocking out the shields of a space station, but it won't attempt to core it, and I'm not 100% sure why. It'll take all the shields out, it'll kill all the turrets, but it won't shoot out the faction block of the pirate station. So I need something that, currently the Catalyst has no manual weapons, and not a lot of room for manual weapons. We can go inside this guy here. There's not a whole lot to speak of on the inside, but I've crammed it pretty much full with shields and power, and a couple of large jump drives. Here you can see the back of the turret enhancers, which are also, so since things can draw power up they will draw power up the chain. So I made these mass enhancers, which are way, way, way bigger than they need to be, but I did it anyway because it was my first time making a spinning railed turret, and I wanted to make sure it would work. So I just made a whole crap load of them and used them. So, but I did also add power generation to them so that the cannons would not draw directly from the mothership unless they were firing for a really extended period of time, which they've done, and I've not had any power draw off the mothership. I believe that combined the cannons take up about 7 million power a second, 6 or 7. They each generate about 1 million a second on their own. Each of those enhancers generate quite a bit, and there is a ridiculous amount of capacitors on this ship right now. So I like it so far. It would be interesting to see if I can refit it to hold multiple different weapon systems so it can fulfill different roles within a fleet. It would still be a support ship any way you go, but I could do different kinds of turrets, since I've got kind of a standard sized turret dock there, and so it could, be equipped with swarm missiles for, more independent actions, or it can be equipped with, sniper cannons, things like that. It's going to be an interesting build. I'm going to work on it for a fair bit of time. Another reason kind of for the weekly whips is I don't want to, try to speed build this because I'm putting a lot of thought into it, and I'm doing a lot of learning too, so there's lots of tiny little mistakes, like bits of hull that need to be replaced and cornered out, lots of wedging to go, things like that. And I don't want to wait, weeks and weeks before showing it off, but at the same point in time, I also want to be able to record some videos and keep out all the boring bits for you guys. So hopefully I can do some of that. You'll also see the base has expanded a little bit to accommodate these ships. This large platform I'm going to remake a little bit. I think I'm going to turn, I've had some ideas for some shipyard bits, and I would like to do some more work with rails. I'm still getting used to rails. Here we've got our little satellite, and the pauses is just a little bit of server lag on things rotating, and things on rails currently does pause a little bit every now and then. And in here we have our last bit, which is a whip that I haven't really done a whole lot of work on since I made it. It's just it's kind of just a jump ship with a couple of storage blocks in it. I was doing some trading for a little while with the Imperium, so I needed something that could make 5 jumps in a relatively quick amount of time. So that's my speedy delivery in there, and he gets me where we need to go and allows me to bring blocks where I need to get them to sell them off. And it does, I've got some more blocking out of the interior in the station. Down here, I originally thought about doing like either a workshop kind of place or maybe even a restaurant. But I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with that just yet, but I've got this big room here. This would be like the employees area only, where I've got some factories and storage bits set up, and then it does have a little back door into this area, which is kind of my maintenance. I was also thinking about putting a second floor in here, maintenance wing for the speedy delivery, which I like quite a bit. So close these doors off, maybe. There we go. Yay, closed doors. So that's it for now. That's all the whips that I have to show off. Hopefully, as I get milestone points on both of these ships, I'll be able to do some brief recordings and show off where I've gotten. I know I'm going to be putting a lot of work into the Thrall before I go back to work on the Catalyst, because, like I said, I want to have an all-purpose ship that can fight pirates, salvage pirates, fight stations, take stations, all that good stuff. So I need a good all-purpose ship, and I've been learning a little bit more about design and how to, cram the most into a ship that I can while still keeping some interior and keeping some good design philosophies in it. So we'll see where these things end up, and that's going to do it for now, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.